All set. Nice. Okay, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to the Builders Association, to David and your board, and your members for having me here this evening to talk to you about Wasaga Beach and building Wasaga Beach together. And if you've followed this council, you will know that that is what we're intent on doing. That's building our community to be a better place to live, work, learn, and play, and doing that together with the input from you, the taxpayers of this community. Next slide, please. So my campaign platform was built on the slogan, "Our town and our future." And what we meant by that was that this truly is our town. It's not council's town. It's our town. Every citizen in this municipality, it takes part of the ownership in this community and our future. And what I meant by that was we have seen the start and stop of Wasaga's future way too many times. And it was time to encourage people to pay more attention and to choose a council that would work together cohesively in the right direction, in the best interest of the taxpayers, to build our community and move it forward. And the main goal when we took office on this council was simply to get it done. We had seen things start and stop before, and this council was intent on getting the job done. And I'm very honored and privileged to be elected with a very forward-thinking council, a council that truly values partnerships. Partnership meaning the residents, the business community, the developers, and the visitors who come to our community on a regular basis. Now, one of the first things we did when we took office was to create a term of council priority list. And we identified 84 priorities. And I know when we first did that, there were some official opposition people out there who were saying, hey, how's the council attain or accomplish 84 priorities? And then we took those priorities and we broke them down into 5 pillars. And I'm very happy to stand before you today to say that we've completed about 84% of those priorities. We have completed or started 95% of those priorities. We've got about 2.5 years left to get the rest completed and the other 5% started and completed. But what's important to understand is that council's priorities really never end. For every priority we complete and take off the list, 5 more come at us. And it was interesting, David earlier talked about seeing members of council throughout town having very dynamic conversations. Is that what you call those conversations, David?
That's what I recall.
And it is good because this council is out and about in the community on a regular basis. And we are talking to people on a regular basis, and that's important to us. It's important to understand, A, what's making you happy, and are we going in the right direction? And B, what aren't you happy about? And I can promise you that no matter where we go, what we do, we always find someone or a group that isn't happy. The one thing I'll tell you about politics is it's not rocket science, but it sure as heck isn't easy, especially in this day and age and in the culture we live in with social media, so on and so forth. But we will do the best we can to try and make everybody as happy as we can. So we grouped, as I said, next slide, please, those 5 priorities together into 5 categories, 84 priorities into 5 categories. You know, we looked at updating the OP zoning bylaws, the urban design guidelines for our community. And as you know, we're well underway with these updates. As a matter of fact, we just completed a very important exercise to set a development blueprint and to work towards getting a new official plan completed and approved by the upper tiers of government. And we just held a 7-day charrette for the west end of Wasaga Beach, because what I heard in my very first term of council, and we've heard all of us collectively, this council in this term of council, is that the west end often feels forgotten about. And I understand why. If we look at the current official plan out of 100+ pages or thereabouts, there's maybe 3 to 5 pages that even reference the west end of town. It was kind of that forgotten zone. And is there a reason for that? Perhaps, perhaps not. I mean, it was annexed as part of Wasaga Beach. Wasaga Beach used to go really to Wilson's Corners, and a few years back when communities merged and amalgamated and created Clearview Township and Springwater Township and Wasaga Beach, Collingwood. We then annexed to the Blue Mountain Go-Karts or that street there. And so that area really wasn't part of town and wasn't picked up in the official plan. So we want to ensure that this time around we pick it up as part of the official plan and that we plan for it. And what we're looking to do there is to make sure, because of our lineage here in Wasaga Beach, that we are creating communities within the community that are complete communities. And I want to be very clear, when I say complete community, that does not mean a 15-minute city in any way, shape, or form. It means no matter what node or area of town you live in, to get the basics of what you require, that you don't have to drive or walk forever or to another municipality to at least get the basics, coffee, convenience store, a grocery store. And so that's what we're looking to do as we move down the road. You all know Wasaga Beach is a very unique community, 16 kilometers of freshwater beach, longest freshwater beach in the world, but we're long and we're linear. Most communities are round or square or maybe slightly rectangular, so they have a town square. We don't have that opportunity here. 50 years as a municipality incorporated, many years before that as a village. But it is what it is. It was created along the shore, and we need to now work with it and do the best we can. We're also working to redevelop the beachfront, and I'll share a little bit more of that with you as we move through the slides. Pursue large events for tourism. Whether we like it or not, we're a tourism town. And I can tell you that tourism is the absolute #1 economic driver in the world today. We're not alone. But Wasaga Beach was built on tourism, and that's not going away. And we need to make sure that we take it very seriously and that we're doing everything we can to bring as many people to this community, not only in the summer months, but in the shoulder months and also throughout the winter when we can, in order to help support and drive our businesses and make them stronger. If our businesses are stronger and we can attract more business, that means that your tax dollars that you pay residentially should start to go down. Right now, Wasaga Beach has a very low business portion of our taxes, and we'd like to see that increase greatly. So we're working towards making sure that that happens. And the one thing that we've decided is that we want to make the tourism here and leverage tourism around musical heritage and to become the music capital of Ontario. And if you look back at the grand opening and the week-long celebrations of our new TPAL, what we were able to do is prove that we can do that. We can attract a lot of people to Wasaga Beach, even in the seasons where, in the middle of winter, where we never used to get anybody, unless it was back in the days when we were the snowmobiling capital of Ontario. Snow, what is that today? So we have to find other ways to do that. Throughout that week, the community was we were able to bring 3,000 people from out of Wasaga Beach. 6,000 people in total came through that building. 50% of them were from out of Wasaga Beach. About $350,000 in economic impact into our community that we would never normally have seen throughout the winter months here in Wasaga Beach. We said that we were going to continue to pursue a high school. In my first term as mayor from 14 to 18, I put a task force together and we worked diligently and very hard to work with the Simcoe County District School Board and the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board to get a high school here. And although we weren't successful, this council, when elected, knew that we needed to pick up those pieces from where we left off and get it done. And again, I'm very proud to stand before you today to say that we have formed a relationship and a partnership with the Catholic School Board. And starting next year and opening for 27, the kids of Wasaga Beach will have their very first high school, which they absolutely deserve, the same as every other child. And not just any high school, but a high school that is going to be very, very different. A high school that we reached out and worked with partners. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and what that means for our high school a little bit later on as well. The second category, next, sir, if you would please. The next one is second category saw our priorities, which would ensure that we have a healthy, happy, and safe community for our residents. And some of those priorities included conducting a poverty reduction roundtable, which we did just a few weeks ago, and several of you were in the room were a part of that. That went very well. Our fire chief is putting together a report of what we got out of that roundtable, what we heard, and that'll come back to council, and we'll start to work on doing more about poverty here in Wasaga Beach and how we can help the county and other levels of government to improve upon that. We opened Beach Drive. Beach Drive been closed for several years, and we heard loud and clear throughout the election that people wanted that open. It's open today, and I can tell you can drive down there any day of the week, and there are many of our full-time citizens down there enjoying the sunsets, walking on the beach, and we're very proud of that. We restored the walk-in clinic. We reopened the walk-in clinic that we fought so hard to have. In my first term, it was closed for whatever reason, and we've opened that again. And we've used some of the casino funds to help with that until it gets off the ground. And I can tell you that every day that walk-in clinic is open, we're getting more and more visitation. It's quite busy, and I don't think it'll be. We had a plan of three years. I think we'll see it be self-sufficient long before that, and we won't be having to put dollars into that walk-in clinic. Other levels of government also seeing the need for that. And I'm happy to say that we've got an $800,000 partnership fund through the CHC here in Wasaga Beach, of which they've applied the vast majority of that to our walk-in clinic, so as that we can have 4 nurse practitioners there on a regular basis. So it tells us we're going in the right direction. It's helping the people of Wasaga Beach. The other thing that we have is a doctor recruitment program that we immediately decided to improve upon from $50,000 to $100,000. Plus those doctors, if they should choose to come to Wasaga Beach, they can have free office space for the first couple of years at the walk-in clinic and use those services. And that walk-in clinic is there simply because of the enormous generosity of Dr. Grayling when he retired. And what he turned over to us was basically a brand new, fully stocked with not only medical supplies, but everything you need in the furnishings to have a proper clinic or doctor's office. And that got us a long way. So we're very grateful to Dr. Grayling as well. And we are also looking and reviewing the town's surplus lands. The town of Wasaga Beach has a ton of surplus land that has been sitting there. There's lands we're learning that no one even knew. And it's been sitting around doing nothing for many years. And so we're looking at those lands and how we will dispose of those lands and take those dollars and put them into either paying down debts that we have or increasing our reserves. And then in turn, most of these lands are vacant, if not all of them. And so we'll probably then in turn get development charges coming through on those lands and taxes in perpetuity, which is just going to help us move forward. Next slide, please. Yes. Modernizing the fourth category really highlights the priorities that put residents where they deserve to be first, and that's an excellence in customer service. And the one thing that we're strengthening at Town Hall is that each and every one of us that work there is really in the customer service business. And I can tell you in 2022, council came into office to a demoralized corporate culture. Staff were down, and what we've seen in the few years prior to that was a huge turnover in staff. Our planning department, which affects the people that are a big part of this organization here, turned over 3 times, 2 full times and almost a 3rd time. So we worked hard to creating a culture of excellence, to giving staff better opportunities, to giving them what we call Work Your Way Wasaga, which gives staff an opportunity to have condensed work weeks where they might work 4 10-hour days or 4 longer days, so that they have 3 days off instead of 2, that they have an opportunity to work from home. And we're seeing that that is actually improving productivity. And we're certainly not seeing any less productivity, and staff are quite happy. So we work hard to make sure that the most important people in our business, the frontline staff, are happy so that they can serve and do better by you. Reviewing the business licensing bylaw. We're in the process of still doing that. It's been very cumbersome in the past. Many cities don't have a business licensing policy, but the one we have meant that every year you have to renew your business license. We then send bylaw out to inspect, the building department out to inspect, the fire department out to inspect. And I can tell you that it costs the municipality, you, the taxpayers, a lot more money to do what it was we did than we ever got back in revenue. So to what end are we doing that? And so we're looking to fix that and to make it easier. Expediting homeowner permits process. And some of the builders that here, I hope you've noticed that when you come into town hall, the permits are being processed considerably quicker for the most part. And we're working on a computerized program where it's already in place, and we're testing it where you can actually do that all now online. So you don't have to come in and go through that cumbersome process. And so we're looking to improve all of those processes. We've got a program that we're putting in place where all of our departments can now go to one program and see everything they need to see about your property, no matter what it is you come in to do, instead of sending you upstairs, downstairs to another building or whatever. So we're working on improving that. And implementing supplier and contractor code of conduct. Staff and council have to adhere to a code of conduct, and what we've learned in the past is that so should the people that we hire and work with have a code of conduct and how they act themselves and treat the people that we serve. And so we're working on getting that completed. And then the development of the beachfront parking and payment strategy. This council, I'm happy to say, is now giving our residents, our full-time residents, free parking. And the other thing that we do is 3 times a year now, we have an open concept, open mic where you can come to the Recplex and you can ask any question you want. We did one just a few weeks back, and of course, when you do this for the first time and you're a politician or a town staffer, you're thinking, we're gonna get lambasted, and we ask people, don't hold back, be respectful, but give us the worst you got. And I can tell you, throughout the evening, we had about 20-25 questions. And the biggest concern was the free parking passes and the fact that now we had to go online to get our free parking pass as opposed to coming into town hall and getting a paper one. And the reason we did that was simply when we had to buy parking passes, we sold about 400 to 600 parking passes a year. I think our best year was around 2,600. When we made parking passes free, we issued over 14,000. So you can imagine what that did to our staff and the amount of time 14,000 people coming in to get parking passes meant. It was a month's worth of labor or more that other work wasn't getting done. So we quickly learned from that and decided that we needed to find a better solution. And this is a solution that many other communities do as well. And there's growing pains, and there's always people who, don't like things. I always say 2 things: we hate change in the way things are. Well, there's a lot more people hate change than maybe the way things are when it comes to parking passes. Next slide, please. And finally, we identified the priorities that were most important. And as I've talked about, transitioning to a green fleet. We've got some green vehicles now in our fleet, and we're working as we move forward to bring more green vehicles, either completely green EVs or hybrids on board. And a beautification strategy for our community. We all drive through our community on a regular basis, and although we love it, I don't think there's anyone in the room who can't say they drive through every day and look at 1 or 2 properties and shake their head and wonder how this is happening. And so this council was intent on cleaning up our community, if you will. And so for far too long, the town has been a bit of a mess. And as a result, the town policies and businesses and residents who neglect their properties, we've decided that we are going to implement an AMPS program. And AMP stands for Administrative Monetary Penalty, where today, if you have you call it a Sanford and Son type property, it's a long drawn out process for which we can finally get to a point where the municipality can physically go on that property and clean it up. It can take years, and it can take thousands, tens of thousands of your dollars to go to court, to show proof as to why, so on and so forth. With the AMPS program, we don't need to go to court. We simply we give you a warning with a fair amount of time to fix the problem, whatever it might be. And then we come back and give you a second warning. And if you don't adhere, we then start on a daily basis that we can apply a monetary penalty. And people say, yeah, well, what if they don't pay? Well, it just goes to their tax roll. And we can also implement it, we will implement it so as that when you have to renew your license, if you haven't paid it like a parking ticket, you don't have to license renewal. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's just a money grab. I can assure you it's not. We have a beautiful community and we need to clean it up, quite frankly. And there isn't a street in this town where I can't drive down, very few where I could find one property that needs some work. But there are several. You drive through our main thoroughfares, which is what everyone sees when they drive through Wasaga Beach. That reflects on all of us. And it's pretty sad in some cases. So we plan to implement that very soon, and we'll see how it goes. I venture to guess that we'll start to gain compliance, and that's the purpose. It's not to take money out of people's pockets. It's to finally gain compliance and clean up our community, and not just on residents, but on some businesses as well. Next slide, please. So better together. So what we've been able to do in the last 18 months has been quite outstanding, in my opinion. We've accomplished a lot. And tomorrow evening, I encourage you to come, if you can, to the Recplex from 7 to 9. And we're going to unveil the beachfront redevelopment plan. Fram, our master developer partner, will be there with us. And so will Sunray, who is our partner, is the hotelier who is going to build a 160-room hotel on the beach. World-class, brand name, along with 3 incinerary hotel condo buildings that will operate very much like the Village at Blue. So if you buy a condo, you put it in the rental pool with the hotel, which is another 350 units. It's going to bring modernized 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, standard hotel rooms, king rooms of about 400 to 450 units alive in the next couple of years on the longest freshwater beach in the world. And I invite you to be there tomorrow to see the renderings. I can tell you they're quite spectacular. We have an exceptional chamber. We had a clear vision of how we wanted to move our community forward as a council, and we're working on doing that. We have an exceptional staff whose expertise, determination, and passion have led some fantastic changes in a very short period of time. And I always want to be sure to point out the great staff that we have at town of Wasaga Beach. Believe me, Adam's an ex-staffer. He can tell you they work hard. You know, you always hear Adam's bureaucrats and they got it. Well, I can tell you our staff in Wasaga Beach work hard. Let me give you a little bit of trivia. Often I hear from people, you know, why don't we have what Collingwood has? Why isn't our community as beautiful as Collingwood? Why don't our streets look as great as Collingwood streets look? We have 70 staff to 85 staff members less that work at the town of Wasaga Beach than work in the town of Collingwood. And we have more people. We have more kilometers of roads. We have more parks. And so this town has been lean for so long. We now have a huge deficiency, a huge gap. And it's why you've seen this council working towards trying to get those numbers up a year at a time. It's going to take time, but we'll get there. And I think as we start to work towards implementing a lot of these things to beautify our community, I think we'll get the support of our community behind us. The other thing to note is that, you know, a 1,500 square foot bungalow in Collingwood compared to a 1,500 square foot bungalow in Wasaga Beach, the taxes are significantly higher. And, you know, I'll be the first to admit our last 2 years of taxes here have been ugly, 8 to 10%. We know why that is. We have a $60 million beautiful arena and library, but it's all on us, every bit of it. And we need to pay for that. One of the things that didn't get factored in very well, in my opinion, was the operating costs and so on. I'll share with you today, the last few weeks I've been driving by there and I'm watching the lawn get browner and browner and browner. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably a few $100,000 of your dollars invested in landscaping at the T-Pal. And there's no irrigation system. So we're working right now with our public works staff using the fire hydrants to keep that water going as best we can to make sure we don't lose all of that money in landscaping. There is some irrigation in some of the planters, but none on the lawns or whatever until we can find a way to get the irrigation installed there so we don't lose that. So those are just some of the little things that we found, and I can assure you that council is intent as we move forward for the next couple of years and hopefully past that to try and bring taxes back to probably a more reasonable level. But I make you no promises tonight. It's a tough road ahead. But what we've done is we've tuned into something really important, and that is the power of partnership. You know, I often say that politics is like life. It's about building relationships. And what we've learned in this council is that when you work with partners and you work to build relationships, that you can do a whole lot more together than you can on your own. And these partnerships are partnerships like we have with the Simcoe Catholic District School Board. Next slide, please. You know, oh, that's too far. We'll keep going. What we did in January of 2023, this council went to Roma and we simply asked Patricia Barnes, who was the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, what is it we need to do to get a high school? Tell us what we need to do. And she did. He told us you need to think outside the box and don't think about building a school on its own anymore. It doesn't work. It's not affordable. And she basically laid out the steps that we should probably follow if we really want to be seen and heard to move forward to get a school. And we went away from that, our CAO, we sat down with some claims and we sketched it out and we thought, what do we need besides a high school? We need daycare, we need a theater, you know, and some other things to be included in that hub, if you will. And then we went back in 2023 and we pitched this in spring of 2023. We then went out and we pitched this to the public board and the Catholic board at the exact same time. And we gave them the exact same criteria. Come on out, see our arena, see our library, and let us pitch this to you, and let's see if we can do something. The Simcoe County District School Board told us that it was close to summer, and they were going to be going on vacation. They would see us in the fall. And 2 days later, the Catholic board was at the door at the T-Pal to have a look. And we started to form a great relationship there. And we worked together and we followed the steps. And we did exactly what the PA told us to do in creating this hub and incorporating the library into the school. So that was the savings. We went out and we spoke to the landowner next door, Bob Schickendance, Farsight Homes. And Bob was so gracious to donate lands, first of all, adjust his developments, which I can tell you developers hate doing, but then donate lands to the town that in turn we could donate to the school board so that we had enough lands to make this happen. The county of Simcoe committing to giving us daycare within that school. Lakehead and Canadore, Lakehead University and Canadore College for full secondary within the 9 to 12 levels. And what does that mean? It means putting trades programs within the 9 to 12 curriculum. So is that when the kids are done in grade 12, they don't have to worry about going to trade school or going to trade school for very long. They're already well on their way to getting their ticket and getting a job. And that is vitally important. I mean, you all know in this room, the lack of trades that we have today. You all struggle with that on a regular basis. Farsight Homes, as I indicated, I can't say enough great about Bob Schickendance and his company and his organization. In August 2023, we went back to the AMO with PA Barnes and Minister Lecce and our partners. We brought them with us to meet with the minister. I'll never forget, we got in the room and there was more of us than there was of the bureaucratic staff, which is very unusual. And the first thing Minister Lecce said when he came to sit down, he said, Mr. Mayor, you've got a lot of people here, but I want you to know I'm not intimidated. I said, well, Mr. Minner, if you give me a couple minutes, I'll make a phone call. We can bring some more people. And we had a great conversation. And the great thing about Minister Lecce is he was in tune with Wasaga Beach. He had done his homework. He knew. And the second thing he said was, it's interesting. We have a municipality of 25,000 people with no high school yet, 2 boards that have you on their capital priority plan. Now, the difference there is the Catholic board had us as number 2 on their plan. You're lucky if you get the top 3. And, you know, Deputy Mayor Snell used to be a trustee. She can attest to that. The Simcoe County District School Board, the public board, had us as number 12. you're never getting a school as number 12. You've got to be in that 1, 2, or 3. And so they made a decision to fund a high school to the tune of $57.7 million investment in Wasaga Beach. Minister Lecce said the largest investment they had ever made in a community this size. Our CAO, after I spoke, made the presentation, and the other thing I think is important to tell you is the quality of staff we have. When that presentation was all done and we were leaving the room, the deputy minister said, "Mr. Mayor, I want you to know that in 20 years of doing this, I've heard hundreds of these presentations, and not one of those presentations ever came close to the presentation that your CAO just made to us." Kudos to Andrew and our team. Patrice Barnes attended the opening announcement, and she said, I quote, "I've never seen anyone do this so fast." We thanked her for her advice and her guidance, she said, and I've given advice to many municipalities, she said, you just listened and followed through. It's about building relationships, and we're very proud of the relationship we have with the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board and what will be their flagship school for certain, and will set the basis and the record, or sorry, the bar very, very high for any other school or any other board to meet this. You're going to have a school here that has 2 arenas, a world-class library. We're working on making sure that the track is a rubberized track, so they have a world-class running track, so that they can focus on sports, they can focus on music, and they can focus on the academics. And that's going to be one heck of a high school, and I think we're all going to be very proud of it. Can't wait for the open. So as you know, next slide, please. Many of you are waiting for an update on this partnership that we have for our beachfront. And unfortunately, I can't share much, or our CAO would be quite upset. He's worked hard on tomorrow evening's presentation, but I very much encourage you to attend. And what I can share with you is that working in a partnership with the Frame organization has been really great. And we've been able to move it along very quickly because they already had the information from the last time. And, you know, we went out to the community for 4 days. We had public meetings, we had workshops where you could go in and speak to them. And I'm confident Fram has taken that all away and has brought it back, and we'll see those changes tomorrow, which I think you're all going to be quite pleased with. And although I promised the CAO not to share any images of the plans this evening, I can attest that Fram's building an affordable, sustainable, and modern beachfront for us, first and foremost, to love and enjoy, and for tourists alike to come and enjoy and love in Wasaga Beach as they used to do for so many years. We'll be keeping Beach Drive alive and open, completely open to the public at all times, unless there's a special event where it gets closed. And Fram has not been the only partner we've been working with here. As I said, we've been working with Farsight Homes, and I told you what their plans are, and you're going to see those tomorrow as well. This, I can assure you, will become a world-class destination, and we're quite happy and proud to see that. When do we plan to start? We plan to start demolition, hopefully on town buildings, if not this fall, early spring. Notices have gone out to all the businesses with the demolition clauses that will be doing that. And we hope to have sales offices open by the end of this summer. And we're hoping that Fram and Sunray will be starting construction mid to late summer, early fall of next year. So we should see some substantial progress within the next year or so. Folks, what I'm here to tell you is that we're here. It's going to happen. And this council has worked very hard, along with our staff who have worked extremely hard. And we've done that by going back to you and the public and asking questions, to having open dialogue, to having ways for you to reach out to not only the members of council, but to staff and to town hall. And we're going to continue to do that after this is all said and done and we move forward. And the one thing I hear on a regular basis from people is, you know, Mr. Mayor, how can we ensure that it's really going to happen this time? We've seen it start and stop so many times. And how can we assure that even if you start, it continues? And I'm here to tell you that myself, Deputy Mayor Snell, Councillor Belanger, Councillor Timmins, Councillor Eagle, Councillor DeLeo, Councillor White, who's I almost forgot, Richard, can you imagine tomorrow? I will tell you. We can't ensure you that that's going to happen. Why? That's your decision. That'll be your decision at the next election, whether that continues. It's not up to us. It's entirely in your hands and entirely up to you. So again, I'm happy to be here, happy to answer any questions you may have, and hope to see you tomorrow night, and hope to see you this summer out and about in our community. And don't forget, we've got some great concerts coming. We've got a great organization, corporation being created for special events and for concerts. And I know that some of you were at the last concerts that weren't having any fun. I'm not looking at anybody. And so hope to see you out there and enjoying Wasaga Beach. We live in the greatest community, in the greatest province, in the greatest country in the world. Thank you. Gord, do you have a question?
Really, certainly do. I was wondering if your AMP program is strictly complaint driven, or whether the bylaw officers or you send out locate these properties and deal with them.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thanks for asking it, Gord. The AMPS program is not complaint driven. One of the problems, and you will know this, being the mayor of Mulmont, is in most communities bylaws are complaint driven. And so what do? We pit neighbor against neighbor. Do we really solve anything? How many bylaws we have in many communities that have no teeth? This is about creating a bylaw that is a system that is proactive. So when bylaw officers leave the office, they leave with their eyes wide open. It'll be about doing regular drives. It can still be complaint driven as well. But it's about making sure that we're seeing what we need to see and we're fixing what we need to fix. All right, then I won't answer your question.
What's that development plan includes track roads? Yeah, I mean, you have Adam Burton saying Indy like that. I mean, I know I take the waterfront now because of the construction that's being done. And it's watching, but how are we going to, how's that traffic load going to work on that 2-lane little lovely road that we go by every day on the beach? We've got a 450 unit hotel.
Yeah. So here's what I can tell you. I can tell you many things, but I was born and raised in this community, and I can tell you we haven't seen traffic like we used to see here. I mean, what we see today, although it might seem bad to people who haven't been here long, is really nothing. And the longer you live here, the more you learn the road network, the easier it is to get around. I drive through this town on a daily basis, and I hear horror stories, and I can tell you I never have a problem getting from one end to the other. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it certainly happens on hot, sunny, long weekends or any hot weekend. And that's part of the growing pain. So with this, you will see, and this after tomorrow night, it's not getting put away if you can't see it. You'll then go out, and I think we're taping tomorrow night as well, so you'll be able to watch it. And don't forget that not only do we have these every 4 months where we'll have an open mic to come and ask questions, but our CAO, Andrew McNeil, every Monday from 9 till noon sits in council chambers, and anyone can come in at any time and ask him anything they want, get information. So there is a road plan that goes with this. It's not going to solve all the issues. It is going to put roundabouts in place. It is going to help considerably as we get the funding and we have the tax dollars coming in. I can tell you in the last term of council, our reserves really went down considerably. We are getting lower on reserves, but we're completing right now the Veterans Way to Blueberry Trails. I would think the next major section would be from 45th Street to the roundabout to widen that. So there is a plan. There is also plans for future for Mosley Street. That's more complicated. It's a very narrow road. There's a lot of homes closer to the road, but there is plans in place to do that. So we do think about that as we move forward. But what I will tell you, if we waited to make sure everything was 100%, we'd never. And listen, you know, the federal government and the provincial government really drive the numbers, you know, drive the developments. And so we know there's a number and we'll have to achieve that. And we live in a world where we're not going to get small. And listen, I remember as far back to when the sign was 28 or 27. And you know, I could ride my bike from one end of town up the middle of the road after 5 o'clock and never see a cop. It was great. That's not how it is today. So to answer your question, we think about it. We put programs and projects in process, as you see on River Road now. And I'm happy to say that River Road is supposed to be, I think it's about 2.5 years. I think we're going to be done that in about 8 months early, maybe even 10 months early. The contractor there, GIP, is a big company. They own a lot of iron, so they're moving fast, which is great as well. And we'll be looking at that as we move forward to find those companies that are, of course, reasonably priced, but can get the job done. I remember the first section. I think it started in the term of council prior to mine, and only finished near the end of mine. It took forever. So we do think about it. We do look at it. We do traffic studies. Throughout the year, we're good. Summertime is congested, and it's the way it's always been, and probably will be. You know, because of our lanes, we really have 2 thoroughfares. You have River Road West, which for many years we didn't. We didn't have a bridge at Schoonertown, so you drove from Oxbow all the way around. And we had Mosley Street. Will there be a time in future at 18th Street and Veterans Way, another bridge? Probably. We have the land. We purchased the land on this side. Ministry owns the land on the other side, but that's down the road. $18 million is the project right now on River Road West, from Veterans Way to Blueberry Trails. These numbers are staggering. You know, not too many years ago, we would have done that for half of that or less. But COVID's changed the world.
And piggyback on that question, what needs a foresight on the parking down there? Is there gonna be vital parking for the hotel and then couple and townhome parking for tourists and public?
So again, I'd love to tell you, but I can't reveal until tomorrow night. I can tell you that parking was absolutely been considered, and we don't think that parking is going to be an issue. Oh.
Back to when you spoke about partnerships, wondering if what do council and staff and you yourself vision partnering with the different associations in Lynch? We have great associations, obviously this one and the Chamber and Wubba Wubba and the new BTA and Friends of Nancy Island, I want to say, who are all volunteers and want to help. What is the plan for working with them?
And again, and thank you, because that's a great question as well. Right now, council is really focused on cleaning up the town, getting the development underway for our beachfront, and of course our Main Street. And there's a lot of great organizations in town. You just mentioned. And no doubt the town council and staff are willing to work with whomever. It's finding the resources and the time right now to do that. We've got a lot on the go. Is there room for improvement? There is, we know it. But we can only do so much with the resources we have. So I ask that those volunteers keep going, keep working hard. We appreciate it. They pick up some of the slack throughout our community in different ways. And I think once we get past this year and we know that things are happening and moving, we'll get a chance to take a breath and really stand back and look at that, but never hesitate to come in and have a conversation with staff and to figure out what those timelines might be or what it is that we're looking to do. We used to have a very good relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. Things change over time, but that's not to say we can't work with people in the future.
I was wondering about the Catholic school board versus the public school board. There used to be a segregation between the two. I don't know if that still exists or not, but how is that going to work?
So Catholic high schools are open enrollment. You don't have to be a Catholic to attend. Matter of fact, there are even Catholics who attend who don't take Catholic education classes. It's optional. I'm gonna look to my deputy mayor here as the expert in this, but from grades JK to 8, you used to have to be Catholic, but I think now you can apply to attend even if you're not Catholic. Is that right, Tammy?
Yeah, you can apply for an exemption. And they expressed to us that there's really no reason to turn down an exemption. And they also accommodate out of boundaries if you provide your own transportation.
So that Catholic board really has opened up. And we anticipate we'll see a lot of public school kids who will want to stay in Wasaga Beach to attend high school, that they'll probably attend that. The great news about it is that someone had to be first. It just so happened that the Catholics board jumped at this, which we're very grateful they did. The public board has said that 2030 is the year that they really think we should get a high school in Wasaga Beach. So the great news is that within the next 5 to 7 years, our kids will have 2 high schools.
So do they still teach religion in the Catholic board or do they have the option not to take that?
So they absolutely teach religion in the Catholic board, religion classes. But it is an optional class. It's not a staple. We don't have to take it. Yeah.
Can we take?
Sorry, my daughters I'm not Catholic.
Mhm.
My wife is Catholic. My daughters are not Catholic. They went to Catholic school and never had to take any religion classes.
We have a question from one of our members who's online, Richard Dufresne. Richard, you have a question?
Yeah, I think Brian, like, I've never been disappointed with the turnover time with the Wasaga Beach Building Department. I think the frustrations, and I'm sure a lot of builders will agree with me, is the wait times with the NVCA, and they do not stick to their own guidelines where they say we will get back to you in this amount of time. This type of permit will take this long, and so forth. Do we have any recourse with them to even just keep them to their own guidelines?
It's an excellent question, and I'm going to try to be as politically correct here as I can.
Yes.
I built a few homes. I've worked with my good friend Pat Bartoletti, who has built me a few homes over the years, and I can tell you that it is very frustrating. I do not understand it in any way, shape, or form why it has to be so complicated. I hear on a regular basis the horror stories, people waiting over a year, so on and so forth. And so what I can tell you is that we are working to set up meetings with the minister Tangent of the MECP and other ministers, and we and our MPP Brian Saunderson, and we have a phenomenal relationship with. And I'm meeting with him actually for lunch in a couple of weeks, and this is one of the things on my schedule to talk about again. And I couldn't agree more. The NVCA, although they do a great job at many things, they do an absolute awful job when it comes to permit and allowing people to move on with their lives and go forward. Councillor Joe Belanger is the town's representative on that board, and I'd ask Councillor Belanger to speak to that, but we've got to eat at some point. I always tease Joe at every meeting, so and believe me, he pays it back. But he feels the frustration. I know that he's worked hard with them to make improvements, and there have been some, but there are still those stories that we hear on a regular basis, and it's a problem that needs to get fixed. We're well aware of it. We are working on it. I can't stand here tonight and make you any promises or wave a magic wand, but be rest assured we're on top of it, and we're having discussions to see how we're going to try and fix this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Okay, one more, and then we'll have a little break for dinner. Okay,
Right.
okay, 2 more quick ones, and then that's it.
Thank you for what you do. It's not easy.
Launching probably launching strategy. I'm really interested in that, and really what your possible plans. And I'm also very interested in knowing how I can participate in that strategy and
how I can contribute, I can understand.
Sure, so we had that poverty reduction roundtable a few weeks back, and we had an enormous turnout. And pardon me, we got a lot of information back on that from that. This strategy is being led by our fire chief, Craig Williams, and very bright young man, and we're very proud of him. I would encourage you to reach out to Craig if you weren't able to be there. I'm sure he'd be happy to sit down and go through that with you. It will come back to council. You know, the thing about poverty, if you know this, it's very, very complex. It's complicated. You know, people think, you know, why can't you just build homes and why can't you just do this? You know, we could build all the homes in the world. There are people who live on the streets who aren't going to go in them. You know, we've had last winter, we had some brutal nights where we opened warming stations. We actually went out and hunted for people. The worst night, the worst storm of the year, we were able to get 2 people to come in. It's very complicated, it's very complex. And you know, for Simcoe County, that responsibility for affordable housing and so on lies at the upper tier, which is the county, which myself and Deputy Mayor Snell sit as councilors on. As a matter of fact, I sit on the Simcoe County Housing Corporation Board, and Deputy Mayor Snell sits on the Affordable Housing Committee. So we're well in tune with what we need to do, and the county is building affordable housing on a regular basis. We've got another 99 units coming to Zoo Park Road in 2027, sorry. So that's a positive. But it's a very complex issue. And so it's experts like you that we need to hear more from. Wasaga Beach is not going to solve the poverty problem. We're looking at how we can improve it here in Wasaga Beach. And whether we can or we can't improve it, we don't know yet. But please reach out to Craig and have a conversation. He'll be happy to talk to you. And we're looking forward to getting that information back to see what our strategy is going to be moving forward. This is a new one for Wasaga.
Okay, thank you. Very last question, Tyler.
Just a question about high school. I know during your last term, your school board didn't take consideration your kids home to family that may expect if we get a high school. Could this Catholic high school affect us negatively in a public high school because of the amount of kids that go to it?
Yeah, the answer to that is absolutely, unequivocally no. These boards submit their submissions based on the student population that would normally attend their schools. And so their numbers are completely separate. We've known for a long time that the numbers in Wasaga Beach for a public high school are there. The board hasn't agreed with us. The good news is we've got one high school being built to open its doors for 27 and a second one if the Simcoe County District School Board is true to their word, in 2030. We'll have 2 high schools for our kids, which I couldn't be more happy and proud for. Thank you, everybody.
Mayor Smith, thank you very much. And enjoy your dinner. I would ask that now we can maybe start with Tyler. If you and everyone just take a minute. You can, while we're eating, introduce themselves. Then we'll take a little break for dinner and continue with the meeting. Thank you, Tyler.
Do you recall going to meetings?